Hi, Bobby Watts here with our third installment of Smack101. So the first two have been a little bit, not boring, but just pretty tedious with technical stuff. But today we're actually going to fly. So today we're going to call it learning the basics of hovering. So we're going to show you tail in hovering first, and then we're going to attempt a sideways hover, and finally a nose in. So I've got some training gear, I've got my helicopter, so let's go fly. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to fly. So what I've done is I've created a Smack101 pre-flight checklist, which I've got right here on my iPad. You may not be able to see it. We're going to upload it to the Smack Talk website, and this is a good thing to take a look at before every flight if you're just beginning. So maybe you can print it out or put it on your phone. So what I'm going to do is I created two columns, one for nitro, one electric. So I'm going to follow the nitro pre-flight checklist, and this will ensure that everything's ready to go once it's finally time to fly. So I've got my transmitter here, and I've also got my starter and the helicopter with the training gear. As you can see, this is just attached with rubber bands. The training gear is great because I can kind of shift around and lean forward and backwards, and nothing bad will happen. The risk of tipping over will be a lot less. So according to my checklist, the first step for nitro is to make sure I've got the correct model on my transmitter. So here I'll go to Fury 55 flat barless. Okay. And second step is the transmitter charge. I'm at 7.5 volts. For my transmitter, that's correct. A lot of the transmitters, they run on like a 3-cell LiPo or more AA batteries, so keep an eye out for that. Make sure that's charged. Receiver battery charge. I know I just charged it, so we're good to go there. Do I have fuel? Yes, I have a full tank of fuel there. I've taken off without fuel before, so make sure you do that. Now we're going to turn it on, wait for everything to initialize, and check for all servo movement. So while we let everything fire up here, okay, so we're good to go. Up is up, down is down, forward, back, left, right, and I have rudder. So this is something that I check all the time before I fly, even if it's a contest flight or if I'm just messing around here at the field, anything. So always triple check these things. So I checked everything here. Lastly, just make sure all your important components are tight. Make sure your head linkages are on, everything's pretty good to, you know what I mean, good to go. Boom supports are tight. There's no chafage or anything in the fuel tubing. So and then we have throttle down, initiate glow plug, remove fuel shutoff, and start model. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to learn our first step in hovering. Okay, so I followed our pre-flight checklist. Everything's ready to go. Turn my fuel on, glow's about to be ready, and we're about to fire it up. Always make sure you're out of idle up with the stick down. I set up all my switches so that when all switches are back, I'm ready to start. Another thing we've got here is just our small camera so that you can see my stick movements as I'm flying. So here we go. Glow, starter, beautiful. Okay, so now that our motor's running, we are ready to fly. So, I've got tail in to me, which is the best orientation to learn how to hover. It's important to learn tail in because all your directions on the sticks here are the same as it is when you're flying. So we're going to take a look while it's light on the skids. We're going to go forward, back, left, right. Just little movements, and you can see everything's correct. Left rudder, right rudder. I can see a little bit of movement there. So we're good to go. So we're going to get everything light on the skids. The helicopter starts to pick up a little bit. And we're going to lift up. Nice and slow. Bam. Just keep it off the ground a little bit. Now my helicopter is shaking because the head speed's a little low. So I'm going to bump it up. This is my 1800 head speed. So now we've got a good solid hover. So we're going to do our best to keep the tail towards us the entire time. So even if the helicopter drifts a little bit, that's okay. So the goal in the initial hovering is just to keep the tail towards you as long as you can. As long as you can. And if it floats around all over the place, that's really not that big of a deal. And if you look here on my sticks, I'm hardly even making any corrections. And I'm running a lot of pitch. This is my 3D model. So it's important to note that it really takes hardly any corrections to make it move. And then with your first flight, when you take it up and you feel like you've kind of had enough, you need to rest your nerves, you can just set it down and just take a break. Set the stick down, you know, wipe your hands off. Your palms will probably be sweating during this initial one. The first time you hover is a little bit scary. So we can go back up again. So back up again and just kind of let it float. Just get the feel. Give it a little back, give it a little forward, a little bit of left. Just kind of get the feel of it, you know, work it around a little bit. And this may take you months. This took me weeks and weeks and weeks to get completely comfortable with tail in. So now we'll walk it around a little bit. We can do a little circle while the training gear is on. Little circle, that's cool. We can start moving side to side, start to see it tail in. The most important thing is to keep it tail in. So I can even move it around here, and I can use my rudder to correct for this tail in. And this is a really good height right here for learning. It's just a hover. For hovering, this is an excellent height. So we can move back this way. Now another thing I used to do, I remember when I was first learning to hover, it's tough. So if you kind of get it, you know, over to here, and let's say you kind of have a rough landing like that, you set the stick down, and you have to go walk over to it. So let's say you go walk over to it, I would always stand behind the helicopter. So we'll stand behind it and we'll try it again. So we'll go, we'll fly. So let's say we're flying around here, and let's say I get it way over here, and then I get scared and I kind of land it quickly. That's fine. I'll come over here. I remember my first few flights, people I'm sure were wondering, what the heck is he doing? I started on one end of the field and ended up all the way on the other. And it only took 1 tank of fuel. So we'll do it again. So we'll come over here, hover it, and fly around. And just hover until you're comfortable. The first few times you fly, you may only be able to get in a flight or two until you're not comfortable anymore. Okay, now that we've done our tail end hovering, now we're going to start to work into a little bit of sideways. Now the tail end is the most important thing. That's your home position. Whenever you get in trouble, you're always going to turn it tail in. So we're going to pick it up here, get it light on the skids. Once again, the training gear is cool because we can kind of bounce around if we need to. No problem. So we're going to start to just take it a little bit sideways here. You can see I'm still tail in, but it's starting to get a little bit sideways on me, which is what we want. We'll come back the other way. And when I keep it tail in this way, it's going to get sideways once again, which is exactly what we want. And notice once again how little movements I'm doing. I'm hardly giving any movements right here. Just nice and slow, back and forth. You can also work this into a box shape. So now we can go forward. We can stop. It's still a little bit sideways to me. Now I can come back, come over to the side. I can stop. I can come back. And then I can come over. So this is our sideways hovering. Once you get into this position, then I'd suggest taking it a little bit higher. And you can turn, so we're tail in, then we can turn it just a little bit. And then if it gets scary, we turn right back. You just want to get used to looking at that sideways in hovering. It's the most important thing. So we'll go to the other side. So I can hold it. Then if it gets uncomfortable, I turn it back. Once again, this tail in is our home position. This is our safe position. If anything ever happens in any of your flying, always get an upright tail in. Then you can kind of reset yourself. So with this hovering sideways, the goal is to just keep it sideways for as long as possible. So we really just want to keep this sitting here as still as we can, which is pretty good right now. Then we can rotate it back, and then we're good. So once again, we have our sideways right here. Sit here. Then you can work it into a little forward flight if you want. Sideways, just nudge it forward a little bit. This is kind of drifting. What you want to do is you just want to slowly creep into everything. Everything kind of wants to be a little mix of kind of sideways, sort of tail in. This is going to be the most comfortable for you. Then once again, we can completely turn it sideways and get into some forward flight. We can stop, bring it sort of tail in sideways again. We can turn the nose a little bit more. This is how we're going to slowly creep into forward flight. That's going to be our next episode. Which is here, you can see how I'm just kind of slowly putting around, just kind of in a circle. And this is exactly what we want to do. Just like this. And if you can do this and keep everything kind of in one place, and you're happy with the, the feeling of it and everything, you're going to be totally good to go. Alright, so we're going to land it. Alright, we're going to fuel up. Now we're going to get to the dreaded nose-in hovering. So now that we've done our sideways flying, now it's time to turn everything nose in. So here we go. We're going to spool up. Get it light on the skids. Take off, nice and smooth, beautiful. Got it, nice and stable, just like this. So for the nose in, we're gonna go a little bit higher. Right about up here. Nothing crazy, just a little bit higher for us. Maybe even a bit more. Now, we're gonna start to turn it nose in a little bit. Sorry, sideways. And once again, once I get uncomfortable, I take it back tail in. Now for everybody for nose in, this is what I recommend to do first. This will give you the best chance of kind of doing your first nose in successfully. What I recommend is actually not even going nose in, just doing kind of a quick pirouette. So watch, I'm just going to give the left stick left, just kind of pirouette and come around. Now what it does there is that gets you used to seeing your model nose in. I'm sure some of you have never even seen that when it's not just sitting there on the ground. So we'll do it again, watch. No inputs on the right stick, just let it pirouette real quick, watch. Now when it pirouettes, once again, I just saw the nose it made, so I'm kind of familiar with how that's going to look. I remember with my first Raptor 30, it had a big nose on the front, and I remember how cool that finally looked, that I didn't have to look at the back end of the helicopter so much. So we're just going to fly around, do our little, sifting here, get in sideways a little bit. This is kind of cool and whatnot. So we're going to get our sideways going. Now this time, I'll just put it nose in, hold it, and then I'll pirouette around. Once again, that tail in is our safe home position. So we'll try again. So go out, maybe I can give right rudder this time. Right rudder, hold it, and then get out of it. So what you want to do is put yourself in that nose in, hold it as long as possible, and then you're going to get out of it. So we'll hold it sideways, hold it as long as we can. Wait for it. All right, we'll put it nose in. So let's say I hold it this time. I'm doing pretty good holding it. Okay, let's say I give the wrong correction. Oops, get out, tail in. So once again, as you can see, that's always our neutral spot. So we're gonna go again, one more time. We're gonna go to sideways, okay, nose in, hold it. Now, a lot of people want to tell you a lot of tricks for doing nose in. They say, oh, forward is backwards and left is right. I wouldn't even focus on that. That's too much to remember. I can't even remember that myself. It needs to be as natural as possible. This needs to be just as natural as flying, left and right. So when I'm nose in, I know that when I give right, it's going to go to my left, for instance. And when I give left, it's going to go to my right. The biggest thing I'm thinking is that once I give it that correction, I know exactly where it's going to go. Don't try to think too much which way it's going to go left and right and forward and back. Too much to think about. So here we've got our nose in, nice and locked. Now when you feel like you're up to it, I want to see you do some different sort of landings. So we'll go back to tail in, for instance. All my landings have been tail in today. So the next part in mastering our hovering is to be able to land in every orientation, which is actually harder than it seems because you're real low to the ground in an unfamiliar orientation. So we can do our tail in as I just did, okay? We can do a right side hovering. So get it there, and then just kind of set it down, okay? We can do a nose in hovering as well. which, you know, we get it level, and then set it down. And like the others, we can do nose to the right. Hover, and then land, and set it down. Another thing to do when you're hovering and you're learning all this stuff, try a different landing all the time. So let's say maybe your first flight, just to get the bugs out, you land tail in. Maybe your next flight, you land sideways. Third, and then maybe towards the end of the day or in the middle when you're feeling fresh, that's when you want to stick your nose in landing. You can also do takeoffs. So let's say if I were to take off in this nose in position, I would spool up, and then I would lift, bam, straight off, right to my nose in. So this is mastering our hovering. And as you can see here, as I was talking about earlier, when we learn our hovering, this is what's going to get us into that forward flight. This is what's going to be able to get us into working the model into a forward sort of flight, just like this. This is our goal for the next time. So see if you can take a look at these tips, see if this hovering helps you out a little bit. Now we're going to go over a few of the practice exercises that you can do with hovering. Okay, so with a little bit of fuel left here, I want to show you some of the things I used to do to try to work on my hovering. I already demonstrated it to you earlier, but this is how we can use different objects and markers to our advantage. So here you can see I've got 5 cones set up. This is pretty common. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go up to the cone, the center cone. I'm just going to hover over top of it. So I'm hovering over my center cone. Lock it in, get good control right here, nice and steady. No movement. So then we're going to back up, and we're going to go to our right here. We're going to leave it tail in the whole time. And we're going to go to the right. Get it over there and center it over the cone. Stop. Now we're going to go forward. Now this is all tail in, so this should be quite simple for you to do. Stop, with a little bit of practice, of course. Okay, we're going to come over to our left. So we're going to come left, stop. Good. We're going to come back. Hover over it, stop. And then back to center, and land. Now that was a very quick sort of overview here. I don't want to bore you with it too much, but if you get the idea right, you can do this while staying tail in, you can go sideways, you can go nose in, mix it up, do it clockwise, counterclockwise. But as you can see here, the most important things were to keep the helicopter nice, steady, and level, and that at every single point you want to stop. Another trick you could probably do is you could probably go tail in. When you get over the cone, you could probably do a full pirouette and then rotate and then go forward. When you get over the cone, full pirouette, and so forth. So that's one of the drills we can do here to practice hovering. So thanks for watching our 3rd installment of Smack 101, hovering and learning the basics of hovering. So hopefully now you know a little bit about how I used to practice all my basics when it came to everything before the 3D stuff. So maybe you can get some cones and go practice this sort of stuff. Your training gear will help you out. You know, your nice soft throttle curves, your soft pitch curves, and everything that we taught you today. So until next time, you guys take it easy, and next time will be the forward flight and backwards flight installment. Thanks. Rick flying the Fury 55.
Oh, that's kind of fast, dude. It's too fast. I've had bad.
So once you've mastered your tail end hovering, you can have the cones here. And all you got to do is flip it upside down, stay centered over here, come back, and you can do it all inverted. Just after mastering tail end flight. Sing it with the training gear. All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. Hit it. Recording?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now, So now we've got everything set up here. Pre-flight checklist has been followed. So we're going to turn the fuel on, initiate glow, and hit the starter. For you guys at home, I've got my other camera right here so you can see my stick movements as we're going. Dude, come on, man.
That's cool looking.
Dude, come on.